Podcast Network Asia.
Inform other people exactly of what a zipper lane is, just so that we can help traffic move along a lot faster. Faster traffic means less high blood pressure, which means Jinno doesn't turn as red. It's not a good look on him. The guy looks better on the beach, like tan. Hey folks, this is Caco
And this is Gino Rufino.
You are listening to Torque of the Town. It's Wednesday once again. Welcome to another episode of Torque of the Town. Now, last week we were talking about pet peeves, something that got Gino's blood boiling to like 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, especially when we're talking about intersections.
Yes.
Now, we'd like to make this clear. We're here to talk about our pet peeves that ply the road even till today, like Earl's love for Blackpink. I don't know why that still happens till today, but it still does. And we're pretty sure that these pet peeves are yours as well. We can talk about this till the cows come home and for eons and whatnot, but we also need to let you guys know that we're not just talking about this simply because we want to bitch and moan and rant. No, we're doing this so that you guys will be better informed of these particular pet peeves that we have, because some of them are actually pretty dangerous, and we're not necessarily saying that you are guilty of these things that we're going to be talking about on our show today. No, but you may know those that are guilty, and perhaps instead of, let's say, pointing the finger and blaming them, maybe altogether we could all help each other by informing each other why these things these pet peeves that Gino and I have are wrong, and maybe we can educate these people that are doing it so that it ends.
Sure, and
we get world peace.
It's also important to note that some of these we probably were not aware of.
No.
And we've probably done in the past.
Yes.
When I say we, it means the listener, myself
also. Yeah. We've all been guilty at one point or the other of these things, but through self-education and being educated by others that are experience on the road, we have come to realize and understand why these pet peeves of ours are exactly that, pet peeves, because, well, they're dangerous. And instead of just mentioning things, rifling it off left and right, we're going to tell you exactly. Well, hopefully, we're going to enlighten you in sharing why these things are dangerous and why you shouldn't do them, and at the same time how to avoid them if at all possible. So last week we were talking about stuff that was happening inside the city.
Mostly in the city. We were talking about behaviors at the intersection, behaviors even when you're following an ambulance and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Using your signal lights properly.
Hazard lights
properly, especially not using it when it's raining. This week, what are we going to do, Gina? Are we still going to stay inside the city?
Maybe we can start stuff inside the city and then move out.
Stuff inside. Why do I have a feeling that you've already got one particular thing about inside the city before we move out onto the highway? Is there one particular thing that you want to start the program off with? One particular pet peeve that is like gnawing on you, like it's gnawing on your last nerve, that every time you see this happen in your head, you're thinking, why does this happen? Do people just enjoy creating havoc and traffic for everybody else? If one person is delayed, must everybody be delayed at the same time? Must we all live in a world where misery loves company? Is that it?
All right, so why I wanted to start in the city first is something that's relatively new. And I think it's because of who we are as a society.
Yeah.
This thing is needed, and it's the bus lane that's been erected on EDSA.
You said erected.
I know I did. I did it intentionally just to make you laugh. And I understand why it's where it should be now as opposed to where it was before, because of the cars, because of the side streets that people turn into, and then sometimes the buses are blocking the way. That's why they moved it into the center.
Yeah.
Now we can talk about this because this has been a topic in many different shows and on social media and whatnot. But what I want to concentrate on is not necessarily the bus lane, because I get it. I get why it's there.
Okay.
But there is a sign on these bus lanes at the beginning. Have you ever noticed that sign?
No.
Yeah, because it's so low. It's like maybe as tall as you So it's not exactly very high and it's not exposed to other motorists on the road.
Folks, thanks for joining us today. Okay, so there's a sign?
There is a sign that says...
I'm that short that I can't see the sign?
So other motorists cannot see that sign that says bus here and whatever other motorists here. There is a sign in the beginning of these bus lanes. So because the bus lanes are not always there, right? There's breaks in between.
Yeah.
So let's say you're traveling down EDSA and then you are where the bus lane is, but there's no barriers.
Yes.
And all of a sudden you see this sign that's coming out of nowhere because there was a car in front of it.
Yeah.
So you have to get out of the way and
Yeah.
then you're going to have to swerve to the right or change lanes. And it's a little dangerous that it's so low that nobody else can see it.
Yeah.
Except for maybe
Or anybody that's like 5 feet away from it.
that's the only person that can see it is the car that's right in front of that sign.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, in a perfect world, those barriers and that sign would not be there.
Yes, that's true.
People will follow that, okay, that's just for the buses and for emergency vehicles, and that's it.
No barriers needed.
No barriers needed.
Yes.
That's the ideal situation.
Yeah.
But we don't live in an ideal world because we have people on the roads that need to be educated.
Yes. Oh, you're being nicer this week. I like it. You're a bit calmer.
I'm a bit calmer.
Right.
Last week was a little rough because
Okay.
it kind of got to me.
Yeah, man. I should say. Go ahead.
So hopefully, that whole idea behind not needing those barriers is something that we should all strive to do, right?
Okay.
Because the reason why those barriers are there is because we have so many pasaway people and people just, ran out of F's to give.
Yeah.
That if those barriers aren't there, you'll see cars there, you'll see motorcycles there, you'll see other motorists on that lane, even though they're not supposed to be there.
And even worse, the buses
And the buses
would be exiting that particular lane.
And trying to overtake each other. We saw a situation not recently where two buses hit each other.
Inside the bus lane.
Yeah.
With the barriers up.
With the barriers up.
Jesus.
So, and I remember a post from, what's his name? Si Bong, the EDSA guy, the MNDA guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was saying that we can do whatever we can to try and improve the situation, but if the mentality of these drivers don't change, nothing will.
That is very, very true. And not just for the bus drivers themselves, everybody on the road.
Everybody on the road.
Yeah.
So, but in that situation, there was just two bus drivers that were being pasaway.
Yeah.
And just, I'm getting frustrated.
I know. There you go.
Breathe in.
Remember, Gino, see your therapist. Don't do your therapist, okay?
So, I agree with him in that sense. We can have all these laws, all these rules, barriers that shouldn't be there, but I understand why they're there.
Yeah.
But unless we change how we think,
The mentality.
the mentality.
Yeah.
And I say we because all of us should do this.
I'd say myself included.
Yeah, myself included.
Yeah.
If we don't, then we're going to continue having problems on the road.
True. We are going to continue having problems on the road. However, I should say that we can do small little improvements, which is exactly what we're doing on the show right now. We're trying to not isolate, but pick out some of our pet peeves and perhaps maybe, reduce the number of times that it happens by speaking about them, and so that we can tell people exactly why they're dangerous, and perhaps maybe they can stop if they are guilty of doing these things, or if not, inform those that are guilty of these particular things. Earlier you mentioned that we did the city last week, and now we started with buses that are eventually going to move out of the city. And so now let's take us to the highway and provincial roads, shall we? I'm sure that there are a lot of pet peeves that we can find on the highways, I'm sure, as well as with provincial roads. I don't know, however, if we're going to be able to get to any of our listeners, or if any of our listeners will be applying through provincial roads anytime soon, because it is quarantine, it's a pandemic and whatnot. We're under still somewhat of a lockdown. But perhaps, maybe later in the future, if you hear our words and understand the fact that what these people are doing could be dangerous, then maybe it would be helpful. Not maybe, but it will be helpful if you inform them about how dangerous it is, their behavior, how dangerous their behavior can be on the road, and it's not just a danger for other drivers, but a danger for themselves as well. The first thing that I know that Jinno and I wanted to mention when it comes to getting out of the city would be left lane hoggers.
Yes. Oh my God.
That is, I wouldn't say it's gravely dangerous.
It's annoying.
It's annoying, and you are impeding others from being able to get the traffic moving a lot faster.
Yeah.
Now, we do understand very well that the speed limit on the highway is 100 kilometers per hour. Everybody gets that. We get that, right? Mm-hmm. But it is not your job to stay on the leftmost lane and maintain a speed of 100 kilometers per hour, because that lane is not only meant to travel at 100 kilometers per hour, but that is for overtaking only.
And it says it on the damn road.
See, I try to set it nicely, but
It's written on the road. There's signs on the flyovers or on the bridges that says overtaking only.
Bruh, have a Coke and a smile. Chill. Let me talk to these people. So, listen to me, people. When you're on the left lane, try to stay there for as quickly as possible and then move back into the right lane. The left lane, yes, is definitely for overtaking, mostly for overtaking. Now, the other people will say that, yes, I am on the left lane because I'm overtaking. I'm overtaking that car that's 5 kilometers ahead of me. No, it doesn't work that way. You need to move to the right first. If there is a car that is traveling faster than you, faster than 100 kilometers per hour, if they are breaking the law, well, it is not your job to enforce the law by staying at 100 kilometers per hour on the road and not allowing them to pass. Move.
Do you need to show a blue flag to those drivers?
No,
blue flag.
Hopefully not. But if you stay on that left lane, a blue flag may not be shown, but it may be a flag such as a red flag, which is what happened to Roman. What's his name? Grosjean.
Yeah.
This past weekend, dangerous things can happen if you decide to hog that left lane. So once again, it's dangerous for you to stay on that. And it's not only that, but I guarantee you that staying on the left lane, if caught by a camera, it's going to cost you about $5,000.
Yeah. So I thought that this pet peeve would not exist today. Because this has been going on since the beginning of time.
Yeah, unfortunately it's still going. Even when Fred Flintstone was trying to overtake Barney Rubble, that was there already.
Yeah, and I just don't get why it's still happening. People just don't care. People are unaware, or they think that they're in the proper lane.
I think it's like we said, it would be sort of like being a little bit uneducated, uninformed.
Yeah.
Because if you are on a 2-lane highway and if you stay on the left lane, as a driver, you feel that you are most protected because the traffic is away from you. The traffic's on the right side, and you by the left side, by the barriers and by the median, you feel safe.
Because you only have one side to worry about.
That's right, which is your right side, right? But you are impeding anybody else that's behind you that wants to, let's say, for example, carry a little bit more speed and be able to overtake you with good reason. If they flash their lights behind you, it's not because they're blinking their eyelashes at you and they think you're cute. No, they need you to move out of the way.
Yeah, it's also similar in the smaller roads in the provincial areas.
Yes.
Where you have slower vehicles such as tricycles, but not limited to tricycles.
Yes.
That are always in the center or the middle or the leftmost lane. And this is a two-way. And they're always on that side. Whereas there's enough space for them to be closer to the right, closer to the sidewalk, closer to the sari stores or whatever it is.
Where they're going to stop anyway.
Yes. And they should be, in my opinion, closer to that and leave the center or the left lane more free, because they're traveling at 15 kilometers per hour.
Yes.
They're slowing down everybody behind them.
Yes.
And then you have drivers or riders that are a little bit, atat, or a little bit want to get past them, and then they're going to overtake. They're going to go counterflow on the other lane so that they can overtake whether it's a tricycle or a slower car or those Bajaj looking like things or those whatever, or what other kind of vehicles that's hogging that lane,
Which puts everybody in danger.
which puts everybody in danger. So why don't they just move over to the side, let the faster vehicles go through as long as they're not speeding, so that it eliminates people trying to overtake by counterflowing.
That's true. The problem that we have here when we're talking about, let's say, for example, tricycles on provincial roads is that we need a better medium to be able to communicate this particular problem to them. Because you and I can talk about this till we're blue in the face, but unfortunately, I don't know if our words will ever reach anyone that can reach them.
Well, there was a big network that was... There was a big network that was stopped and taken off the air that could have probably reached them. But anyway.
Shots fired.
So something else that bothers me about these provincial roads, these smaller roads.
Yeah.
With again, I'm gonna point out to tricycle drivers because this is a lot of my experiences are with this situation.
Okay.
They will pull to the side of the road, and this happens in the city too, whether in provincial roads or in the city. And then they're gonna make they're all the way in the side in the tindahan and the whatever gas station.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna do a U-turn without looking.
Yeah.
They'll turn first and then look.
They'll turn first and then look.
Yeah.
That is probably not just necessarily for provincial roads, but it could be the same way on the highway as well in the city. Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't make a U-turn on the highway, but
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
In the provincial roads in the city, I've noticed that we see that a lot.
Yeah.
People turning before looking, and that will cause major problems.
Yeah. Again, if you know anyone that is guilty of these things, point out to them. Don't just tell them that, hey, what you're doing is wrong. Explain to them why there could be wrong. Why Jack's phone is going off the hook while we're in the middle of a recording session. But tell them why it is wrong. Why your phone is wrong, Jack, for beeping.
What kind of sound is that?
I don't know. It goes quack, quack, quack.
Like,
Anyway, we're continuing on. Now, we were on the highway a while ago before we exited onto provincial roads, but getting back on the highway, another problem that we may have or another peeve that Jinno and I have noticed on the highway is those drivers that are extremely indecisive. Indecisive in the manner that, sure, they are finished with the left lane, so to speak. This is just an example. If they're on the right lane and they need to overtake, they go to the left lane, and then eventually they move to the right lane properly. But they seem to always not be sure whether they want to be on the left lane or the right lane if there's a car approaching. It's as if they need to make sure that they're ahead of everyone and cannot be overtaken. So they're indecisive in the manner that they should be on the left, they should be on the right. Sometimes they ride the center of the road. Now that's just one example, but the main idea here is indecisive drivers. Your indecisiveness on the road is not welcome at all. Let me tell you why. Because when you do, again, you create traffic. If you don't know which particular lane to be on without making a decision on which lane you're supposed to be on, then it's as if you want to occupy all the lanes at all the time. And that's just not possible. That's one. Second is that you don't own the road. Move to one. Remember, it's a privilege, not a right. And number three, or letter D, wait a minute, I mean letter C. I got my names wrong, numbers wrong, letters wrong. But number three is that stick to one lane. Don't swerve left and right thinking that you're going to go faster by going this way or that way. Really stick to one lane, because not only is it dangerous, it's also a hassle for everybody else behind. You are not the only person on the road. You don't own the road. You're sharing the road. So please do so accordingly. Apart from the indecisive drivers, there are also truck drivers, unfortunately, that use lanes that they're not supposed to.
yes.
The overtaking lanes.
Yeah.
Now,
And they speed too sometimes.
yeah, and really scary too.
Scary, absolutely.
There is a limit that they're supposed to go, which is 80 kilometers per hour on the highway. And I noticed this. Jack and I, one of our favorite pastimes is just to simply, when we're heading to a shoot and we're using the north or the south expressways, we hit cruise control at 100 kilometers per hour. And there have been times where a truck, it's not gunning past us, but it's definitely speeding past us ever so slowly.
Yeah.
So that means it's got to be going more than 100 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
And that is deadly. And this is a pet peeve of ours simply because of the amount of times that we've heard it so many times on the news that ay sir, nawalan po ng preno,
Yep.
on so on and
Yep.
so forth. And all of this really can be avoided if maybe the truck were to, well, you can't avoid losing brakes if it really is a true story, but they shouldn't be traveling that fast in the first place. And I guess where Gino and I want to get at is that trucks obviously are employed by companies, or they have in companies. What else am I trying to say? Trucks are employed by companies to deliver
The
goods.
drivers are employed.
The
by
drivers, rather, sorry, are employed by companies. What the hell am I saying? It would be great and beneficiary to everyone if maybe you could inform these truck drivers who hopefully have passed the test properly that speeding is a no-no. And it's just dangerous for everyone. I mean,
especially with something that's that big
it's a weapon.
of
Really?
mass destruction.
It really is. If that thing loses its brakes, it's epok.
There's a reason why sometimes trucks are used in, well, terrorist activities outside of. We've seen it. We've seen it in situations outside, mostly outside of, we've seen it in the States, we've seen it in Europe. It happened in the French Riviera not that long ago. It happened in Times Square.
As weapons.
As weapons. They use it as weapons.
It's like elephants on roller skates is what they are when they're speeding.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult to control. And can you imagine the ordeal that they've got to go through when they need to slow down when it gets to the toll gates? Man, that in itself is something already.
So I want to ask you something. I know we didn't discuss this, but I just wanted to ask what your thoughts about it. We do see it with supercars.
Yeah.
And we do see it with motorbikes.
Yeah.
On the expressways.
What?
And they're flying down at maybe over 200 kilometers per hour.
Is it because we're pissed or we're jealous?
That's why. I want to know what your thoughts are on that.
I guess a little bit of both.
Yeah.
It's definitely envy
Yeah.
to be able to travel that fast. But at the same time, I guess when you're younger, it's definitely envy. But as you get older, especially if I have my family with me inside the car, then it just really puts everybody at risk.
Yeah.
All those that are driving.
Yeah.
I mean, let's put it this way: if you own an Italian supercar,
You can rent a truck.
you can rent the track, or even better, I'm sure you've got the ways and the means to get yourself to the Autobahn and drive like to your heart's desire as fast as you want there on a public road. But if it's really to drive that car as fast as possible, then I'm sure you have the means to shed a little dough for the track.
Yeah.
Instead of endangering everybody on the road and making us feel bad that we're traveling half your speed, damn it.
Yeah. No, I mean, the speed limit is there for a reason. And
Yeah.
it's there for the safety, not just your safety, but the safety of the other motorists on the road as well.
Yes. So if you are lucky enough to be a driver of one of these cars that can achieve 200 kilometers per hour, or if you're lucky enough to be a passenger inside an automobile that can go 200 kilometers per hour, understand that car speeding at that pace can be considered a weapon too. If it can harm those that are inside the automobile, and unfortunately, it can harm those that are outside of the automobile too. So please do slow it down.
Yeah. So another pet peeve of mine when we're talking about riding out of the city
Yeah.
is when you get to the tolls.
The lines?
Not just the lines, right? So you fall in line. I mean, this is, of course, the whole RFID situation, that's a whole different topic. And you can learn more about that on the website, AutoDeal.com.ph.
Segue.
But what I'm talking about
Nice segue.
What I'm talking about more is this pet peeve of mine existed even before this whole RFID situation.
Okay.
Is when people are in line for a booth and they've been on that line for a significant time already, and then they see one line moving faster. I don't know, maybe the lady or the gentleman manning the booth is taking longer with a change, or there's a bigger bill, so
yeah,
counting
yeah.
more money or whatever.
Okay. And
And then that a driver or sometimes a rider will switch lanes to get to the faster lane and try to cut in front of other people.
Oh, you mean Earl?
Yeah, Earl does that.
Yeah.
Earl does that. Earl does it on a bike, so he thinks it's okay.
Does it on a daily basis, that jerk. Man, if he was here, I'd tell him off right now.
I'm right here.
So anyway, what you were saying, Gino?
Yeah, so that is a pet peeve of mine because once you get, unless you're told to, right, by somebody in the booth saying there's a problem, move to this lane. Unless you're informed to move, stay in your lane.
I think that there's a safety issue there too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you move to another lane. Well, for me, it's not just a safety issue. It's just super annoying. It's like, because you're at a snail's pace already. You're stopped, and then you're gonna cut through a different one. You're making seeing it basically.
Yes, it's uncouth behavior.
Yes, I mean, get some class.
Ooh. I'm sorry, that particular one is just going to be pretty much a rant. And if you ever see that behavior, don't tell someone, swat them on the head. Just straight out swat them on the head and say, what the hell are you doing? So what's wrong with you? Don't do this crap.
Of course, nowadays you're going to see it often because sometimes the RFID is not working.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm talking about was before, right? Before this whole RFID problem that we currently have.
But in line with the RFID problems that we do have now, I'm not going to, like you said, the whole RFID situation is a completely different topic altogether. Yeah. But in the fact that there are lanes now that are having problems with them.
Yeah.
So you cannot avoid moving from one lane to the other.
Yeah, that's right. If you're told
it's unavoidable.
If you're told
there is one thing though that I'd like to impart to everybody out there, which is the zipper lane, which is something that unfortunately as Filipinos, we don't naturally do because we love to stick to the bumper in front of us. Unfortunately, by doing that, you create even more traffic. However, if you were to follow, let's say, the zipper lane, then things would just move a lot easier. Now, the name might confuse some, but the name is exactly what it suggests. Like a zipper, let the left lane in, then next car on the right lane, then the left and the right, one after the other. And I guarantee you, if we were to do this as one, the traffic would flow so much faster.
But you're assuming that people have the patience and have the
okay, so if in Gino's terms, in a perfect world, in this particular world, that I would love it if everybody were to live in it with me. If you are hearing this for the first time, then educate yourself to understand what a zipper lane is. And if this is not the first time you've ever heard it, inform other people exactly of what a zipper lane is, just so that we can help traffic move along a lot faster. Faster traffic means less high blood pressure, which means Gino doesn't turn as red. It's not a good look on him. The guy looks better on the beach, like tan. Right now, he's like red, and he's got that blood pressure machine around his neck and not his arm.
And another thing that, because you mentioned that the zipper lane is something that maybe not everybody knows.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think that not many people know, a little bit of a pet peeve, but not as high in the
what, the intersection?
We're going back to the intersection.
Oh, we are?
We are.
How fun.
So when the light is blinking yellow, I don't think everybody knows what that means.
Inform them, Gino. School them.
It means you slow down. Don't stop. You slow down slow enough that you could be able to look both ways and not be in a problematic situation, then proceed.
That is true.
If it's blinking red, you stop. It's not going to turn green. It's blinking red. And then you proceed. Don't stop there and then not move because the damn thing is just blinking red. It's not a Christmas light. It's doing that for a reason.
Again, Gino is not blaming you. He's saying that if you are.
Yeah. So another thing again. Wow, I really have an issue with.
You do have a large issue with intersections now.
So,
were you born in the middle of an intersection or something?
Another thing is that whole situation when you first to stop, first to go.
Yes.
Nobody does that here.
Yeah.
Nobody. So in an intersection.
Oddly enough, people may not do it inside Metro Manila.
Yeah.
But you go to Subic or Clark.
Okay. Why is that?
I don't know.
So we understand in Clark and Subic, laws are enforced a little bit stricter.
Yes, that's true.
So, does that mean people just don't care. They know the rules, but they just don't follow it because they know they can get away with it. Or do they think that, oh, these rules don't apply in Metro Manila, or these rules don't apply in Cebu or in other places around the Philippines? But wait, they apply in Subic. They apply in Clark.
Maybe, it could be a combination of both.
I don't know.
But I guess it would be nice if we let everybody know that just because they work in Subic and Clark doesn't mean that they have to stay there. They can crawl and creep out of these places and enforce themselves in Metro Manila.
Or do you think it's because when they see one person doing it, they're like, ay,
Ako na rin.
Ako na rin. Ginawa na rin niya eh.
You know what? Could be that. Sadly, it could be that. But again, that all boils down to the same thing that we were talking about in our episode last week, which is not to let other drivers out there dictate how you're going to drive or how you're going to behave on the road. So just because one person does it does not necessarily mean that you should be doing it too. If you know it's wrong,
don't. Yeah.
That's right.
You know what I saw on the way here?
Yeah.
On the way to work?
Yeah.
I saw somebody driving. Buti na lang ito slow, right? And there was traffic and whatever. Phone up in the air.
Jeez.
Dancing, doing TikTok.
While driving?
Yeah, while driving.
I'm not.
You can see it because they're lip singing and they're doing whatever, these movements, and you're like, oh my God. I mean, texting and driving is bad enough. Okay, so maybe it's the same thing. Texting and driving and going on social media while driving, don't do it.
I'm sure it's behavior like that. Unfortunately, if you're gonna ruin the privilege of driving for everyone, then that privilege should be revoked.
Absolutely.
Because if you're gonna be doing that on the road, then man, you are nothing but one big hazard. And I don't think that you deserve to be on the road. If you see any relatives of yours, family, friends, co-workers or whatnot doing this, have the courage to step up and say, hey, if I'm in the car with you and you're doing this, you're endangering my life. If I'm not in the car with you and you're doing this, you're endangering the lives of everybody else around you.
You know what? I blame Drake for that person. Because kulang na lang.
How are you gonna blame a Canadian, man?
Kulang na lang that person got out of the car and said, Kiki, do you? And started doing.
How are you gonna? Can't blame no Canadian.
But yeah, so it's.
Speaking of people, what a segue. Speaking of people walking while dancing, what they should be instead of driving and dancing, we're gonna move on to another part or another segment of our pet peeves that doesn't necessarily deal with driving an automobile. It could be everybody else on the road. Specifically, in this particular example, would be pedestrians. Now, I think I've brought this up many times before that I think I know how to behave properly as a pedestrian. Because I operate a vehicle as well. So I know how the vehicle behaves, so I would know how to behave as a pedestrian. Unfortunately, it's the Philippines and it's the mentality, and I believe it's the former editor-in-chief of Top Gear Philippines, Paulo Subido.
Okay.
Once said he had a guest coming out of town. And he was gonna cross the street or something, and Paulo just basically told him, "Dude, be careful. This is the Philippines, man. You don't just cross the road here for anything." Yeah. And that's a sad reality. Absolutely. Because pedestrians here are, well, in short of a better way of saying it, they're second-class citizens.
Yeah,
it's the car first or anything else. Now, if you're not guilty of these things, and I know I have to say that I've been guilty a time or two in the past, but when I see pedestrian crosswalks, proper pedestrian crosswalks,
fencing,
dude, hit the brake pedal, hit the biggest pedal that you have inside the car, and slow down. If there's a car ahead of you that's slowing down, there's a good reason why he's slowing down, because there are probably pedestrians crossing.
And you don't see him. You don't see them. And it's we've seen that, like, if there's a car and you see that painted thing that looks like a piano on the road.
Yeah.
In case people don't know what it is.
You know the album The Beatles? Yeah, that thing.
Yeah. So in case you see that and there's a car stopped, and then you're still flying down the road, there's a reason why that car stopped.
There's chances are you're gonna hit some.
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned that about Paolo talking to a foreign guest.
Yeah.
Because my nephew, who's half British, they're half Dutch, but my sister and my brother-in-law live in London.
Mm-hmm.
They were in town during one of the Christmas holidays.
Okay.
And my nephew and my sister were walking. This is my sister. She's already Filipino.
Yeah.
And she instinctively, because she's been gone for so long, she saw the pedestrian crossing with my nephew, decided to just walk.
Yeah.
Without really paying too much. I mean, they look both ways and whatnot.
Correct.
But thinking that the cars would stop.
Yeah.
And then I came running and I was like, yo.
This is the Philippines.
You have to remember where you are. You're not in London. And then she was like, oh my God, they're not stopping. I was like, yeah. And this is in Makati Ayala Avenue.
Wow.
This is not in this is where you would think that people would understand what to do.
True. Oddly enough, people, again, back to the Subic and Clark situation, but a little closer to the NCR, in BGC, cars are a bit more behaved in that particular area and allow pedestrians to go through, especially when the pedestrian light is green and they have the right of way. So it can be done.
It can be done. That's the frustrating part, right? It can be done.
So if you can inform other people out there that when you see a pedestrian lane, A, slow down, and B, if there are pedestrians, they definitely have the right of way. Now, as pedestrians, I guess we have to learn as well that we cross when we can, and to learn how to not impede each other. It would be very difficult if one pedestrian crosses and then somebody else is coming along exactly, as one person is getting off the road, the other person gets on the road again, and traffic is going to be waiting for eons just to let everybody go. So as a pedestrian itself, you also have the responsibility to understand that perhaps you can wait a little while, maybe allow a group of pedestrians to sort of like converge just before everybody crosses at the same time, just so that pedestrians can cross without impeding anyone, and cars can stop without really impeding anyone too much behind them. It's a symbiotic system. It's not a zipper lane, so to speak, because it's a pedestrian and a car at the same time. But we can learn how to coexist in that manner and not hit each other. Would definitely be a good thing.
Now, okay, I agree with you there. But something that, since this is a pet peeve and it's something that just occurred to me. Because it's a big pet peeve of mine. And I want to know what your thoughts are.
Okay.
Since I mostly use, I would say 90% of the time I'm on the road, I'm using my bike.
Yeah.
And if I have to go to a parking lot.
Yes.
And I'm willing to pay.
Yes.
For a spot, a car where the cars park.
Okay, I see where you're going. Okay.
Right. Do you think it's not fair that a motorcycle can park where the cars park if the rider is willing to pay for that slot?
I believe that if the rider is paying the exact same fare as the car, then they have as much right to that slot as possible, and that they need not park in a smaller area where it's designated for motorcycles. I believe they do designate the motorcycle parking simply because they can accommodate more parking spaces for motorcycles and then leave the larger parking spaces for cars. But if a motorcycle rider is paying for a slot, regardless of its size, then I believe that they have the right to that slot, such as they do in the parking buildings of Bonifacio, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so there are naman that allow it. So I guess because I noticed that some people who I guess don't really ride bikes don't understand that, and they think that all bikes should be parked in one area. But sometimes if the bike's too big, it won't fit in the designated parking slots for other bikes out there.
That's very true. But I do believe I'm on you on this one, that if you are, as a rider, understand that your motorcycle is too big and you need a slot on its own, and you are paying the exact same fare, I don't see why you need to be treated. So this is a plea for anyone out there that works in corporations where they feel as if that motorcycles need to pay the exact same fare as everybody else, but they get secondary citizen status when it comes to parking.
Yeah, and also for the riders out there who do this, who have the big bikes and who want to park in a parking spot where the cars are parked, have at least some courtesy na rin to not occupy the whole spot. So if another big bike comes across and did the same thing, then you can fit two bikes there.
Absolutely. So I completely agree there.
So that means more parking for the cars.
Yes,
right? So
that's true.
It's just something that I've heard other motorists, car drivers, say is their biggest pet peeve.
I'm glad
when they see like, oh, why is that motorcycle there? He's not like he needs that much space.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because it brings me to another pet peeve, a very huge pet peeve of mine when it comes to parking spots.
Yeah.
And that is wheelchair parking.
Okay.
And this is very close to my heart because I have an uncle who is in a wheelchair.
Me too.
And you too as well. Yeah. My uncle, though in a wheelchair, he drives his own automobile.
Oh.
He can steer the automobile. He has the ability to accelerate with his foot, but the way that he decelerates the car is that there is a mechanism or a contraption that he's purchased from the United States, if I'm not mistaken, where it's a lever that you attach to the steering wheel that has a stick that goes straight all the way to the brake pedal.
Yeah.
And so that when he wants to slow down, it's sort of like, imagine it to be sort of like a motorcycle brake lever.
Yeah.
That is somewhat floating around the steering column. So when he accelerates, he steps on the gas. When he wants to slow down, that's the brake lever that he uses. Now, he is in a wheelchair, but he operates his own vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe he has the absolute right to use wheelchair parking, which is designated for people that are set aside for people that are much closer to the entrances, so that it's easier for them to get in and out. Let's just take it as the mall, for an instance, right? What pisses me off, now it's my turn to get pissed off.
Yeah.
What pisses me off are people that take advantage of these parking slots that don't need it whatsoever. It's simply because they use it because there is no other parking available.
Yeah.
And that is really, really, really hurtful. And I know that I do this myself. I've taken it upon myself that when I see that happen, it's very difficult to approach a car and a driver and tell them that they're wrong. It's like telling a guy you don't know how to ride a motorcycle or you don't know how to drive. It's very, very difficult. So I need to approach it in a manner that, excuse me, this particular spot is intended for those that need wheelchair. That have wheelchair access. Now, the difficult part there is that if the driver himself, so some of us have hired drivers, is driving someone that is in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Now, that's where it get kind of tricky. If you're a driver and your passenger is in a wheelchair, then that means that you actually have the ability to be able to bring the person in a wheelchair to an area where they can get in and out of your automobile and then be on their merry way. Whereas you, with all your limbs working properly, you can park that automobile elsewhere and leave that particular slot for those that actually need it, whether it be, let's say, for example, a senior citizen or someone in a wheelchair that needs to gain access to the car immediately.
Yeah.
But you, as an able-bodied driver, if you can not use that slot, I'd appreciate it if you did.
Yeah, no, I agree with you with that one. It's the fact that you have most people I know who have are on wheelchairs or crutches or need help with their mobility.
Yeah,
have drivers. But like in that case, when your uncle is the one that's driving himself, absolutely 100%. You're gonna just make life more difficult if you're gonna take that spot, and he needs that spot more than anybody else.
Definitely, yeah. That's what I was thinking, and it's I don't know if it's because my uncle is in a wheelchair, but that I'm more aware of this. If I am, then great, because it allows me this voice to be able to tell people that there are people out there that definitely need that spot, and that you shouldn't take those spots as you hit the jackpot lottery and whatnot. You get to park next to the entrance or exit of a particular establishment, even if you're going to be there for 15 minutes. No. That's not how it goes. So if you are guilty of these things, thank goodness Jinno and I have never been guilty of these things, but if you are guilty of this particular peeve that we have, or if you know someone, please do inform them that be gracious in the fact that you've got all your limbs and you're able to up and walk and operate the vehicle, and park in a distant manner, so that those that really need wheelchair parking access can use it to their advantage.
All right, something else that really bothers me also.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've seen tricycles do this.
Yeah.
And I've seen cyclists do it as well.
Ooh, sensitive topic.
They counterflow. They don't follow all the rules. But let's stick with more with cyclists, since I kind of ragged on tricycle drivers earlier. Sometimes cyclists think just because you're on a bike, as in bicicleta, that the normal traffic rules don't apply to you.
That is true.
So you can counterflow. You can go, run the red light. You can.
There are so very many.
It doesn't work that way.
No, riding your bicycle on the sidewalk, counterflowing on EDSA, which I've seen it. Not walking your bicycle across the pedestrian lane. Yeah. Very many. Very many. And and then now, because it's the new normal, or we're kind of in the new normal, bicicletas cyclists are all over the place. Yes. And unfortunately, majority don't follow the proper rules. Yeah. Now, I'm a cyclist myself. Mm-hmm. And, I try to at least be aware of the stuff that other cyclists do. And then sometimes I tell them. Good. Yeah. But, sometimes some people tigas ulo talaga eh. Yeah. And it's unfortunate. I got a question for you, Jinno, because you had... Let me pose this situation to you, and I'll give you the perfect example. When you are on Ortigas Avenue, heading downhill already towards the Antipolo area, you're passing the hospital. So past C5. No. Before getting to C5. Okay. So that part of Ortigas. So you're beside Meralco. The Valle Meralco area. You're going downhill. Yeah. Right. That is a 3-lane road. Mm-hmm. On the rightmost lane, there is a bicycle lane. Yeah. That's roughly about, I would say, maybe a meter wide at most. And that happens to be on lane 1 is leftmost, lane 2 is the center, lane 3. So it takes up a meter of lane 3, right? As you're going down. But as you're going down, the road also widens a little bit. They were, the Pasig area has cut the sidewalk to make it smaller, so that there's a large portion of that road that it's actually technically 4 lanes. Yeah. Technically, right? What happened is that the bicycle lane has remained on the 3rd lane. Ooh. It hasn't moved to the 4th lane. Okay. Yeah. Like the yellow lane is still there with the paint of the person on the bicycle. My question is, as I use that road quite often to get to the Valle Verde area, my mother-in-law and the Tiendecitas area and whatnot. The person that's on a bicycle, and should they remain in that 1 meter painted, or should they have the courtesy to move to the rightmost to allow cars to continue, and then which the road eventually turns from 4 lanes back into 3 lanes anyway? Oh. If I'm on a bicycle, I would go to the right. I would go stick as close to the sidewalk as possible. Yeah. Okay. But that's me. I would assume the same thing then also, because in my head, I know that if I were on the bicycle, I know that I'm not traveling as fast as anybody else behind me. Yeah. I know that when it comes to cycling, everybody says share the road. Well, it should be both ways rin also, diba? I mean,
Yeah.
if you know that you're impeding other cars behind you, then if there's an exit for you to take, then go to the right. Just in the same way that you were talking about provincial roads and also tricycles who stay in the middle of the road as opposed to going all the way to the right.
Yeah.
Diba?
It's the same logic.
It's the same logic. So you'd move to the right.
Yeah, I would.
And what would your advice be to those people that say, no, I'm going to stick on this lane because that's what it says the bicycle lane is?
Yeah, I mean, it's just have common courtesy to at least try and, you're just be a good team player in that sense. Just move to the side as much as you can. I understand that when you paint a road, it's going to take money, effort to cover that paint. So, which they probably should have. But that's besides the point. The point is really just understand that you're sharing the roads with other motorists, with other people, and you're not more important than anybody else.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if you're just on a bicycle, you're also probably more susceptible to something that's a little bit more dangerous than somebody in a car. So why not just move over to the side?
Save yourself a couple of stitches.
Yeah. At the very least. Right?
Yeah. I think what you said, if it's just common sense and common decency,
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily just remain when it comes to cyclists. It can go with pedestrians. It can go
Everything.
with car drivers, truck drivers. Basically the general thought of anybody on the road. If there was a little bit more common decency for everyone, calmness, so to speak, then I guess the roads could be just a bit more bearable. Really, follow certain rules. Don't lose your temper. And generally, what Gino's trying to say is don't be a dick.
Absolutely.
While there are a lot more pet peeves that Gino and I could get into, we may sound like two bickering schoolgirls that to no end.
We were starting to already.
We were, but there have been articles written left and right about certain things that we should and should not do on the road. Some of them you can find on AutoDeal.com.ph, written to you by yours, not yours truly, but rather your servant Earl is what I'm going to call
Servant
it.
Earl.
Yes, your servant Earl, because Earl is here to serve but you. That's what it is. We've taken up enough of our time for this week. We look forward to chatting with you guys, or chatting with Gino rather, next week on a topic that we haven't really actually decided yet. But if there are any other topics out there that you guys want us to touch on, we are available. Just email Earl or
Social media.
Social media,
Go to AutoDeal Facebook page, the MotoDeal Facebook page.
Yeah.
MotoDeal.com.ph Facebook page. AutoDeal.com.ph Facebook page, and let us know some of the topics that you want to discuss or want us to discuss, and you can join the conversation as well. And of course, we can read your comments.
Yes, definitely
on the podcast. And we can try and make it as interactive as possible.
I think that we're missing out on that. We really want to interact with all of our...
So if you have a comment, you don't agree with some of the things that we've said, or maybe you agree with some of the things we said, you think Caco is crazy, let us know. Let us know. AutoDeal.com.ph, MotoDeal.com.ph. And of course, we do have the YouTube channel of AutoDeal and MotoDeal. And MotoDeal trying to catch up with the AutoDeal numbers. So hopefully everybody out there can like and subscribe the MotoDeal.com.ph YouTube channel.
That's right. All of us all of you guys that have supported AutoDeal throughout the years that I've been hosting car reviews and whatnot on our channel would love it if you were to show Gino some love by subscribing to their channel as well. We'd love to be able to keep Gino up at par with our beautiful 200,000+ subscribers. I'm sure Gino did it. I'm not flexing, dude. I'm not flexing.
I want to ask you this.
Yeah.
So, how many? 200?
223,000, if I'm not mistaken.
I think we're still at about, I don't know, We're at about 16,000.
Yes, that may be true, but facts are facts that Jinno at this point, with the amount of time that he's been with AutoDeal, probably has more viewers than AutoDeal had in the same amount of time 3 years ago. So he's actually up on us. So he looks to be on a track very, very good. Congratulations on that. But to all of our AutoDeal viewers out there, do show Jinno some love by subscribing to his channel as well, which is AutoDeal on YouTube.
And of course, we AutoDeal and MotoDeal have Instagram and Twitter as well.
That's true.
We also have Friendster.
We do?
MySpace. Multiply.
I lost so many photos, man. Multiply, damn it, can never.
I'm
get those
glad I
back.
lost a lot of photos because those don't exist anymore.
Yeah, those things. That's what you call blackmail
That's
stuff.
danger. Anyway, we'll see you again next week, Wednesday, 10 a.m. MotoDeal, AutoDeal, Torque of the Town. For Caco, it's been Gina Rufino, signing off. This has been Torque of the Town, a podcast produced by AutoDeal and MotoDeal. To learn more about our products and services, head on over to AutoDeal.com.ph and MotoDeal.com.ph, as well as our social media pages, and of course, our YouTube channels. Torque of the Town is powered by Podcast Network Asia and Podmetrics. See you Wednesdays at 10 a.m.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.